In this final episode, we conclude the anatomy of a murder. We're going to talk about offender profiling. We're going to talk about the suspects involved and come up with a potential conclusion. A lie is where you willfully mislead somebody, knowing that what you're saying is factually incorrect.
I think I lie very well for my profession.
What does a liar look like? What does a psychopath look like?
I just want to say I hope there's a lot of criminals listening to this. We'll be picking up some good tips.
Bradford, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Stephen. Yourself?
I'm covered in sand.
Covered in sand.
I got sand everywhere. I got sand in my feet, in my shoes, in my socks, in my car. I got sand everywhere.
Have you?
I've just been down practicing my bunker because I played golf yesterday, and I was struggling. We played down at Woodlands.
Where's Woodlands?
It's out Cheltenham Way, I think it is, and it's I just couldn't get out of the bunkers. I don't know what had happened. I had a bit of a brain fade, and I was seriously, I would have looked like some duck just waddling around in the sand, and I just couldn't get the ball out. So it really annoyed me. So today I went to Albert Park Driving Range, a bit of a plug for them, and I bought 100 balls. I said, I am not going to get out of this bunker until I get at least 50 out. Right. And I think I got about 60 out. No, it didn't happen yesterday, but yes. So it's the trials and tribulations of a frustrated golfer.
Had I been playing with you, I would have just said, Mr. Sandman.
Felt like gophers are gopher burrowing it down and in the sand. Do they call them gophers?
Yeah. Well, it's I'm probably more comfortable in playing in the bunker because I'm much better at getting out of trouble than I am at getting into trouble.
I'm the opposite. I get into trouble.
Yeah.
When I grow up, I want to be like you.
All right. Well, here we are. We've got. I think we've got a matter arising question.
Yes, and what sort of things can go wrong during a robbery, or what sort of things have gone wrong during robberies? This
is in addressing the phrase "robbery gone wrong."
Yeah.
Which could be interpreted in many ways. Like.
Well, I mean, I guess a robbery that goes wrong is where somebody is incapacitated, injured, shot.
If that was the intention originally of the criminal, not to injure the person, and then they injure them, that's gone wrong.
Well, you've just upped the ante, haven't you?
Yeah.
I guess if you're going to do a stick-up or a robbery, you want to get away without anyone identifying you quickly.
Yeah. Or they resisted.
Yeah, and you don't want to be in a situation where you've upped the ante and somebody's injured. Yeah. Because I don't know if I've ever told you this story. I remember I was doing a speaking presentation, and there was a judge from I think it was a Supreme Court, or I think it was district or whatever it was from America. And I said to him, what's the largest sentence you've ever given anyone? And he said, I think it was 135 years. And wow. I said, how does that work? And he said, well, what happens is in his state, if you plan with someone else to go do a robbery, X number of years. If you're en route to do the robbery, X number of years. If you enter the bank and you have a weapon, X number of years. If you get away with the money, X number of years. If you injure somebody in the process, X number of years. And he said, I had the calculator below the bench, and I was calculating how long. So a little bit different from our sentencing laws, where I remember charging somebody with 3 counts of rape, and the sentence was served concurrently.
Yeah.
As opposed to in America where it's cumulative. Yeah. So you don't have situations like we're having here in Australia or Victoria where somebody, attacks somebody with a machete or whatever it is, and, they've caused catastrophic injuries or brain injury to the victim, and, they're out after, the sentence is 5 years, out in 2 for good behaviour or something.
I know, but there is that, but then again, there's flies in the face of logic. 135 years, really. What happens if they die? They just leave their body there until really it's starting to stink. Come on, I know, but he said 135, no parole.
Yeah,
or just look. If you
then you've got the other problem with prisons.
They never to be released.
Yeah. Well, see, it's another way of saying it, isn't it? And there's only probably 2 or 3 people, I could be wrong, in Victoria who are never to be released, which one of them I interviewed a little while ago.
Yeah.
I guess when it comes to sentencing laws, they have to weigh up. And look, the problem, in my view, without getting too political, and I'm a bit of a political animal, is that sentencing needs to be done as a deterrent. And I get there seems to be no consistency. And a lot of the police that I worked with and still deal with are quite frustrated because, it's the legal system that's letting them down. They're still charging crooks and offenders, but the courts, for whatever reason, giving, we know why, just giving multiple sets of bail. And, of course, especially with kids, they keep committing, these offences. And, we've seen in Queensland, adult time for adult crime. But
maybe that bail money is keeping the state going, Steve.
Well, what bail money? I mean, look,
don't you forfeit if you?
I think you've been watching too many American shows. Yes, you do have sureties and stuff like that, but it's nothing like America, where bail surety set at $1 million, where they know they can't afford it anyway, and they're held in remand or in custody. But we've got a real problem when a lot of these offenders are constantly being released. And look, I know they're different arguments.
I know the difference between on your own recognizance and having to pay. And I thought at least some of them are having to pay. And they're not all getting out for nothing, are they? They're just...
Or it depends. Children are at the moment.
Just all bailed on OR. Yeah. How do they do that repeatedly? I don't understand that.
Well, even when I was in the job, you charge somebody, you tried to have them remanded in custody. They're on 3-4 sets of bail, and courts just thought, well, they need to be under supervision of children, and jail's not a good place, and all that sort of stuff. So it is a delicate balancing act trying to work out. I mean. What's the best way to change behaviour? And I'm all about behaviour. And that is to have consequences or ramifications for that behaviour. And when there's none, and we're seeing a lot of arsons here in Victoria at the moment, these kids are getting $500-600 and they're getting burnt in the process because what happens is they're filling up their jerry cans and of course the fumes, whatnot in their clothing and that, and they put petrol everywhere and next minute they're getting burnt themselves. So I just think that the Bail Act, and I know that under Daniel Andrews they did look at the Bail Act, but at the moment I think it really needs a good. I mean, it's all very well to say adult crime for adult time for adult crime, but you've got to enforce it. And first responders, I don't know if you remember this, but if you here in Victoria, Australia, if you assault ambulance, paramedic or a policeman or a fiery or whoever it may be. There was 12-month mandatory, but of course no one was getting any of those sentences. So, and look, I've got a lot of respect for paramedics. Some of the rubbish they had to put up with. I mean, it was a little bit different for us because we could arrest somebody, whereas paramedics, I mean, what's their crime? They're trying to help people.
Yeah, I know.
So it's a sad state of affairs. But anyway, let's keep moving.
Another question arising out of that. Sure. Something I've never been quite sure of is burglary versus aggravated burglary.
Yep. What's the difference?
What's the distinction? Yeah.
Okay. Burglary is where you break in to steal property. Aggravated is where, under the Crimes Act, there are aggravating circumstances. Now, going back in my memory here, so it's whether you assault or in the process, somebody's injured. Basically. So there are circumstances of aggravation. So rather than just go in and steal the property, somebody's injured in the process.
Would it be – so my understanding, this is where I'm probably wrong, was that it could be aggravated just if somebody was on the premises when you break into the premises merely because there's an inference of assault there because, something could go wrong.
No, basically there's got to be a set of aggravating circumstances where somebody has sustained, some sort of injuries, or there's been, it maybe in self-defense, there's been a fight or something like that. Yeah. But it's a little bit, it's a more serious offence than a burglary when somebody's not home.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. Okay, so let's move on. We have a crime to wrap up.
We do. And so we've spent a fair bit of time in explaining the crime, crime scene services, what happens at the initial crime scene, what specialist units are called out. So now we're going to do offender profiling.
Okay. I'm all ears. I'm all earphones.
All right. So as there are a number of witnesses and whatnot, and we've got certain details, so we won't have to go over it in too much detail, but I've cut it down to a number of likely or potential offender categories. And let's go through them. And of course, a lot of these categories or offences are usually solved by, if in the absence of forensic, scientific, medical or cooperative evidence. Now, we do have evidence. We have cooperative, we have scientific, we have blood, we have witnesses, we have potential CCTV, we've got people, the Uber driver, we've got people working in the pub. Now, this gives investigators a fair bit of context and information to work with. So, from what we've gone over at this stage, number of hypotheses, and I just want to talk about that too, because I've been involved in investigating different criminal offences, and what happens, I can go to a crime scene, I can tell you pretty quickly whether or not the offender spent time with the victim post-mortem, the body's been moved, whether it's organised, disorganised. The FBI, they're profilers, they'll go in and they'll.
What's that difference between organised and disorganised?
Yeah, so an organised would be, I've stalked you, I've followed your movements, I know where you live, I've followed you, I know when you're home alone, I know the optimum time to break in, and it's all premeditated, all pre-planned, to the extent of, I might go and buy ropes or whatever it is to incapacitate you or whatever it is. So that's planned and organised. Disorganised would be maybe a domestic situation that got out of hand, alcohol, drugs, argument, emotions, all that type of thing. Yeah. And this is why I have a big problem with capital punishment. I remember when I was in Washington, D.C., and they still had capital punishment. Now, the argument, the old argument is that it acts as a deterrent. Well, if you look at the homicide back then, if you looked at the homicide rate, it was consistent. Right. Now, do you really think during a domestic situation when alcohol or drugs or, flared tempers all over the place, that people really think of the consequences of their actions? They don't.
No, not at all.
So if you say to me, that capital punishment acts as a deterrent, I would dispute that.
Look, I agree. And I also think that it's been clearly open to misuse because not a lot of really wealthy people get executed. Statistics show that don't. Somehow that if you can have the right, but a lot of very, very poor people, particularly in Texas, I think it's pretty bad for it.
Yeah.
A lot of poor people get executed, and there's no slam dunk, is there, on evidence, really, unless you've got a video. And even these days,
we've seen people on death row be executed, and then later on there's been evidence that have cleared them.
Look, I totally agree. But, 135 years, going back to what we said at the start.
Well, even 135 years, if compelling new evidence comes forward that could exonerate or exculpate the offender, at least you're still around, providing it's not 135 years, of course. But anyway.
I said.
All right, let's get back to these offender category profiles. All right, so as a hypothesis, and this is the problem that I was talking about before, you'll form your opinion, then look for evidence to validate or corroborate that. And I've always said scientific forensic evidence speaks the loudest because witnesses make mistakes, eyewitnesses make mistakes, fingerprints can be wrongly classified, eyewitnesses have memory issues, DNA cross-contaminated. I mean, we really need to be very, very objective.
Right.
All right, so if we're being objective, let's look at the facts that we know as a result of your amazing research. So what we know is the victim willingly went there. We know that. Appears not to have been ambushed by a stranger initially. Was agitated but still attended because that was corroborated by the Uber driver who was talking, who mentioned that he was going to meet somebody, and then, of course, the car stopped earlier and he got out and walked. Why? So it's potentially likely that the victim knew the person enough to meet them in a quiet lane. But see, a lot of these execution styles, that's what they'll do. They'll lure them to a place where they know that there may not be CCTV footage or a quiet place where they can get the deed done.
Well, it would seem sometimes from, without quoting any cases, just where somebody can hide, a second person can hide as well.
Yeah.
An ambush.
As in Wall Street shootings.
Yeah. And I think, what's his name? Alphonse Gadgetama. Yeah, that was an ambush, wasn't it? They believe.
Yes, it was. Yep. Yeah. And that's preferred method or methodology of. Although what we're seeing now are more brazen shootings in Keller Road, Nidgee, at pizza, outdoor pizza restaurants and stuff like that, which is really, upping the ante. A lot of people could be injured in the crossfire. All right, let's keep going.
So and that Dennis Tuppence.
Tanner? Tuppence?
What's the name? The father of the...
Yes, I know who you mean. Yes, he was,
He was shot in the Brunswick Club, wasn't it?
Was it? Oh, I should remember this. I worked at Brunswick. It was was it a Brusso Club? Don't quote me on that. I can't remember, but we'll maybe look that up a little bit later. Yeah. All right. Now, the other thing we know, the brother mentions conflict with Mickey or Mick.
Yeah.
So this tells us that something has happened there. So potential motive, unexplained money. And, of course, we're still trying to establish, was money owed or was it a debt that was unpaid? Is this payback? Remember, there was the damaged borrowed car. Sometimes you might be looking for somebody who could be involved in a homicide and you might think, dodgy dealings in the past. It could be the wife setting the philanderous husband up or something. You never know. Possible debt or failed obligation. The mechanic said the victim made people look stupid.
Yeah.
So therefore, you could have a potential ongoing feud that's vested over a period of time.
Somebody's butt hurt, and
and the other thing too is some of the language. Things like unpaid debt could be lost goods or money, betrayal, disrespect in the criminal hierarchy.
Was that just going back to the actual shooting?
Yep.
Now, is there any inference you can be drawn from whether they've been shot in the back, shot in the front, shot in the head?
Well, sometimes execution style might be. When we were doing the Hunters show that I co-hosted, there was a particular case where one of the victims was told to kneel down and was then executed through the back of the head. So that's execution style. Usually, if there's a struggle, there'll be some sort of defensive wounds or, so most of the time, if it's really quick, it'll be to incapacitate or, and sometimes people fight back or sometimes people run. It's very, each case is so different.
Yeah.
Okay, so... it feels like, come down, let's sort this thing out, right? So is it more criminal underworld and connections and associations?
Right.
So go on.
Can I ask you just about...
You ask a lot of questions, don't you? Which is good for an investigator.
Yes. Well, for investigators then, in your training, right, so even prior to your training, is there much made of objectivity? Is it, do they select you on the basis that you are objective?
No, they do drum that into you in the police. But, it's funny you should mention that. I've worked on one particular homicide case where there's no doubt the investigators, the crew, had tunnel vision.
Right.
And, in fact, there have been many cases where half the members of one crew will think, this person's right for it, and the other people know. So, as humans, like I said before, you have a hypothesis of what you think's happened, then you look for evidence to suit that hypothesis.
Yeah.
Your hypothesis may be wrong, though.
Yeah.
Right. So objectivity is everything in these type of investigations, because otherwise you're going to miss important information. And we saw that with, I'll give you a great example in the Bradley John Murdoch case in relation to the disappearance of Peter Falconio.
Central Australia.
Two British backpackers, Peter Falconio and Joanna Lees. We're travelling through outback Australia, Northern Territory, and as a result, Peter Falconio, their combi van was stopped by a person who was charged and convicted, Bradley John Murdoch. And there was a lot of conflict within the task force because some people thought Joanne Lees was somehow involved and other people didn't. And it got to a stage where task force members were asked, who do you think? And then the task force was chosen on who they thought were neutral.
Right.
In their decision-making process.
I think even with Lindy Chamberlain there was some suggestion of tunnel vision initially. That
there's always tunnel vision. And this is one of the problems I have with psychological profiling. It gives not just investigators but sometimes the public tunnel vision.
Yeah.
I remember, I think I saw the Claremont serial killer investigation profile, and from memory it said something like, the offender you're looking for is fastidious about keeping his car clean. Well, I put to you, Bradford, if you were going to transport a body in the back of your car, you'd be fastidious about vacuum cleaning any biological trace evidence that could connect you to the crime. Okay. So, a lot of the times, it's based on. I don't dismiss it, but it in my view, it can give investigators and public tunnel vision, and some of it is it's through prior case histories, but I remember, I think it was the Ascot Vale rapist said the person you're looking for was in his early 20s, and when he was arrested I think he was in his mid-30s, and that gives investigators tunnel vision.
I'd like to think that you've seen the state of my car. I'll be exonerated on the basis of how dirty and disgusting my car is.
I have walked past your car and I have peered into it.
And look, I've been meaning to tell you, I misled you by omission several weeks ago. About
your car?
Yes.
The colour?
No, where you said to me, you've got those automatic mirrors that turn in when you park the car. And in fact, I don't. I have a button I pressed that you didn't see. Yeah. And it's been...
I thought you were going to tell me it was your bad driving and you drove into the side of a tree or something.
No, I'm not a good driver. But that's and the other thing too is that I think talk about people being influenced. Jack the Ripper, right? Now, had he been in Australia, that's not a bad term. Ripper's a good bloke. So, anyway, that's just trying to lighten the mood. Just trying to lighten the mood, Steve.
All right. So, yes, you're lightness and I'm darkness.
Yeah.
Okay. Dark. So, at this stage, if I had to, put a likelihood on whether it's a planned hit or a criminal underworld involvement, I'd say probably maybe 50% approximately. Right. Let's look at some of the other offender potential profiles. Planned execution ordered by an organised crime-linked associate. Yeah. Payback. You owe me. You've done something. You've ripped me off. That's another avenue you need to be looked at. So it's possible. Indicators, no robbery. Efficient attack, firearm removed, quick exit vehicle, which suggests to me prior planning.
Yeah.
Multiple shots. Once again, somebody could be very annoyed or angry and thorough. Yeah. Oh, thorough, but just annoyed.
Right.
And meeting in isolated but accessible urban
Could I just pull you up on that too? Is it also true too that sometimes when you, and you may not know the answer to this, but sometimes when you discharge a bullet into somebody's body, they don't just fall down immediately.
No, not
and so
necessarily.
you might go, oh, you need another one, and maybe you need 3 or 4 before they actually stop looking like a threat.
Well, once again, depends on the projectile. If it's a shotgun, or something like that, that is pretty good at slowing people down. But it's not uncommon for bullets to hit a rib cage and divert through, the stomach or out the back or whatever. Yeah. So sometimes depends on the projectile. It can take a number of shots.
Yeah, I remember I was in a fight in a bar once, and I punched the guy and it just made him angry. Just angrier, actually. I didn't start the fight, by the way. But yeah, it went badly for me.
All right, let's move on. Okay, certainly what I'd say, less emotional rage and more calculated and cunning and direct.
Organised.
But against that, there's only 3 visible cartridge cases, according to your thing. Slightly messy scene, which uncertain ballistic patterns, which obviously I've mentioned in I think the second episode about the ballistics that would be involved. And no evidence of a professional cleanup. So therefore, not enough time.
But could have been disturbed.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, because it occurs to me that the Victorian police helicopter flies willy-nilly over the scene. In fact, I was out back sharing a cigarette with some comedians about 25, 30 years ago at the Comedy Club in Carlton, where the police helicopter it was a Saturday night, was hovering above us.
Yep.
And the edge of the searchlight was actually about 2 meters away from where we were, so that I went, look, boys, and I went and stepped in there and said,
that's your biggest spotlight.
Yeah, hello. But which is an amazing thing to happen. But here's the thing, that could spook you if you're doing a crime. Just go, well, even Ronald,
you think?
Ronald Biggs, where they think that
bookie robber,
the great
Victoria,
train robber. I was watching a special on him, and they said that they were closing in on him somewhere in the Dandenongs. But the CFA, the Country Fire Authority, the Bush Fire Brigade, were testing new sirens that day, and they think that he got spooked by that, and he escaped just before they raided the property he was on. So that can lead to an organised person being disorganised.
Yep, 100%. So, messy scene, uncertain ballistic patterns, as I mentioned. So real contract killings are often cleaner.
Yep.
No body disposed, time taken to remove evidence, wash down, clean up, blah, blah, blah. But could still be professional, semi-professional, local organised crime. So, of course, then we would have here in Victoria, and other police departments are the same. You have, organised crime detectives could be involved to see whether there's a connection with a particular group, mafia or whatever. In my view, probably not as likely. Probably, if I had to rate it as a percentage, maybe 20, 25%. Likely. So you can see why it's so important not just to have tunnel vision and to look at every possible scenario based on what evidence we have. Number 3, probably a dispute that escalated unexpectedly. So maybe not so gangland related, but someone who's been annoyed or peed off with someone.
Yeah.
Plausible. Victim attends the meeting expecting a confrontation but not death. An argument ensued, whether it be about money, debt, stolen property, betrayal, a failed criminal job. We don't know. Once again, this is where you would start looking at known associates and bring him in, interviewing, and if necessitated, if you had potential targets, you'd take out affidavits for search warrants for listening devices, telephone intercepts, and so on.
Okay, this is a very leading question for you. Is if known associates now, let's just posit the scenario that say somebody is he's peripheral or he's in the criminal world, right? So he's got criminal mates, right, who may know of what he was, involved in. Now, we're led to believe that there's this code of silence.
Not always, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. But are they are you going to interview them and they're going to say, well, we reckon it was, they're going to give you leads or?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but there are other investigative methodologies that you can
for those listening, Steve's grinning while he's talking.
Well, I don't want to give away too many operational procedures because we don't want to help. But look, from an investigative viewpoint, there are different methodologies, investigative methodologies, some that are very effective.
Right.
And look, I've got to be honest with you. I don't think there are a lot of smart crooks out there.
I know, you said that before.
I really don't. The smart crooks never get caught.
Exactly.
The smart crooks never brag. Yeah. They keep it to themselves. Cone of silence stuff, whereas often, and a lot of, if we look at a lot of gangs and that, methodologies of making money, drugs and so on, and there's always weak links.
Yes.
And this honour amongst thieves, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Sooner or later you put the pressure on and links in the chain begin to break.
Yeah.
All right. So just going back to the last one, things could have escalated. We know that because there was shouting, a weapon was produced, multiple shots fired in panic or anger, who knows. Scattered cartridge cases actually support this possibility, may fit better than a polished execution.
Yeah.
I'd say 25 to 30% make likelihood of that scenario. This is an interesting one. A lot of people may not think about this, but personal relationship jealousy. Lower probability. Ex-partner suggests anxiety, fear, trying to get out of something. Organises a hit on the husband. How many times have we seen that? Somebody organises an undercover, executioner or hitman, happens to be an undercover cop. But no evidence relationship conflict triggered the meeting. No emotional messaging because, of course, phones would be seized, messages would be gone over with a fine-tooth comb. No real suspicious associates. But, of course, it all comes back to what? One word that I always bring up, and that's motivation. What's the motivation? You find motivation, then you start having leads. Not impossible, just weak. I'd say the likelihood there probably 10%.
I'll just say this to the listeners at this juncture too, which I'm not a crime junkie, but I enjoy reading crime books. I enjoy good police procedurals and series and films, etc. But there's a thing called dramatic irony in a film and in a book, and dramatic irony is that where, say, somebody is searching a house, and
so we're talking about police, or
it could be anybody. It could be, let's say, police are searching a house, right? And they don't know if somebody's in there or not, but we, the viewer, do, right? That's dramatic irony because we know, and we know that they're.
It's also a film script.
but it's a film script or it's a plot of a book, right? But it's. Something that we don't realise that when the police go to a scene, they don't have the
information, intel.
They don't have the luxury of having seen the crime unfold.
Exactly.
Whereas we did.
You have to reconstruct.
Yeah, they have to reconstruct. And I think that people out there should be listening to that and just realising when you get there, you don't know what's happened.
Exactly. And sometimes it takes a fair while to piece it all together.
Yeah.
Because you're given – sometimes you have to discount information that you're given based on the fact that it may be wrong.
Yeah.
Or misleading.
Yeah.
Just to wrap up, number 5, random robbery, opportunistic violence. I think unlikely based on the fact that cash was still present, watch was still present. Targeted location, prior communications, victim dropped intentionally nearby. Doesn't sound random because we can work out that they were going to meet there. So random, we can rule out. So in my view, the most suspicious individual would be Mick or Mickey. because we know he's a prime, I would say at this stage, a prime person of interest.
Can you just say who Mickey was again?
Mickey was, they had a dispute from memory between, and his name was mentioned, and that could have been somebody who he met in the lane.
Yeah.
Why? Well, we know it's an active dispute, named by the brother, and also likely influence over the victim.
Right.
So in my view, the motive sounds plausible in that set of circumstances. So investigators would probably identify, the full identity, phone records, I spoke about that before, vehicle links, associates, firearms access, registration to firearms. Not that all crooks register their firearms, as we know.
Crazy.
But, some people do. By all accounts, the other thing too, minimise links, admits victims embarrassed by people. So therefore, I think that's probably the most likely. Having said that though, once you start investigating, interviewing, taking out warrants, going through houses, looking for, any evidence, firearms, cartridges, all that sort of stuff, then the story may change, or that your suspicion may change, and that's why objectivity is so important.
Okay, so could we say then, just to wrap this up, that the likely line of inquiry is going to be we'll look into what this dispute was about,
correct,
and find out who the players are in that,
yes,
and then investigate them.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
And because it all forms a picture. And like you said rightly before, it's a puzzle. You've got to put all the pieces together and find out the motive, what drove the behaviour, how organised and planned it was, and then we're looking for evidence to substantiate that, alibi, forensic or otherwise.
Yeah, cool. All right. So
that was an effort, wasn't it?
It was. That was a big job. And look, I've got one very quick question. You mentioned warrants then.
Yep.
How easy is it to get a warrant?
Well, you have to do sufficient intel. You have to get information, whether it be from informers, whether it be from evidence, Crime Stoppers, whatever it may be. You then have to put together an affidavit. You then have to, depending on the type of warrant, a 465 warrant or a drug, poisons and controlled substances. They're different warrants for different reasons, but this would be a 465 warrant because it's any evidence of proof of involvement. So anything that could be associated with that crime. So once that affidavit has been typed out, then you take it and swear it before a judge, magistrate, depending once again which warrant. And then once that's executed, if it's say a listening device or telephone intercept, then techs would go install the devices, and that's part of the collection of evidence.
Right. Okay then. Well, I think that's probably a good place to wrap that up.
Next week will be interesting. I'm not going to give away too much, but I'm sure our viewers will really like what's happening next week. Okay. And of course, feel free to contact us if any questions. Yeah, I'm sure there will be questions about methodologies. Okay. Well, thanks, Steve. I'll see you next week. You're good, Bradford. All the best. See you soon. Cheers, mate. You too. Bye. I just want to say I hope there's a lot of criminals listening to this. You'll be picking up some good tips.